After George Russell's stunning debut for Mercedes in the Sakir Grand Prix, has he given Mercedes a problem with its driver lineup for 2021? I'm Glenn Freeman, and joining me is Scott Mitchell to discuss Russell's phenomenal weekend with Mercedes in place of Lewis Hamilton. We will talk about race winner Sergio Perez as well in another video, but we can turn this one around quicker, so we'll get this one out first and then work on talking about Checo. But Scott, I think George Russell said after the Sakir Grand Prix that he hopes he's given Toto Wolff a headache. Are we talking about 2021 here or 2022?
It looks on the surface like it would be 2022, right? Because Valtteri Bottas is signed up for 2021, and despite no contract being done, all signs point to Hamilton sticking around Mercedes longer as well. So it has to be 2022. But as Russell put it, maybe sooner. He likes the idea of just planting that seed in Toto's brain, but it would have already have been there, because although it was being dismissed by Mercedes as, you know, there's no chance of this impacting the long-term future, it's just one experience for George, any of this. No way. No, not when you've got the two people vying for that seat being in the same place. How could it not inform everything you do? So yeah, on the surface, obviously it seems like it should be for 2022. But you can never say never in Formula One, and George is already certainly hinting that maybe that opportunity will come sooner than he would think.
Yeah, he certainly wasn't shy about that, was he? But let's actually look at Russell's performance, because obviously him jumping from the back of the grid Williams that he's been in for 2 years now, really, and doing this job in a Mercedes straight away has prompted the obvious question of, is it just about the car in Formula One, and could anyone have jumped in that Mercedes this weekend and done what he did?
Well, that's the hospital pass question. So thanks for that. Any driver in Formula One being presented with the situation that Russell was in had the opportunity to do what he did, because the car is the best on the grid, and the team around the driver is excellent. Peter Bonington, the race engineer, and all of those key sort of first engineers in the main performance group. But that doesn't mean every driver has the skills in order to actually maximise that opportunity. And I watched every single one of Russell's 97 laps in Friday practice. I was on board with him through final practice, qualifying, and every lap of the Grand Prix. And the meticulous way in which he went about his weekend, he's utterly process driven. He's not distracted by the end result. He's not distracted by, oh, what happened? If I achieve this, this means great things for me. He's not getting carried away with, I have a shot at a win or a podium here. Every single thing he does is about maximising the thing in front of him. Even in the race, he was asking really detailed questions during the safety car periods, wanting as much guidance as possible from the people who actually know everything about that Mercedes process, to make sure that he didn't let anything slip through his fingers. So this was an opportunity and a performance that was rooted in the car's potential, but you should not underestimate the massive role that Russell and his approach and his mentality and his ability played in him actually getting the potential that he got out of it.
And I actually think possibly the fact that F1 was in Bahrain last weekend was a disadvantage in some ways, because the main corner where George was losing so much time was turn one, because he was trying to drive it as he'd been driving it the week before in the Williams. But let's look at Bottas. Bottas has a contract for next year. We must stress that. But I already felt like he looked like a broken man, constantly getting a beating from Lewis Hamilton this year, and he just needed this season to end. If we look beyond next year and assume that whatever happens now, Russell has got himself a Mercedes seat for 2022, what on earth does this mean for Bottas next year? You know, is his fate already sealed, regardless of what happens this winter?
I think he's in a very difficult position. He certainly won't believe that it's written in the stars now. He won't believe that, you know, destiny is sort of laid out for him, and that he's just now walking a path to the exit at Mercedes. But it's very difficult to take what happened at the weekend as a positive for Bottas. He even said himself that, you know, to the outside, if you don't know sort of the intricacies of the performance and where the race was going, you know, he would look like a cunt or a fool. So he's very aware of the perception, and the main thing for Valtteri is getting back in Abu Dhabi, and basically, if George is back in the car, putting George in his place on a more conventional circuit, because there were there were positives within Bottas's performance. He was coming back at Russell in the second stint, and it looked like the race might be coming towards him, but certainly far from a foregone conclusion. Either way, he is clinging to that, and that is the sort of position he's in at the moment. The current incumbent of the seat, the guy who's been driving this car all year, he's been at the Mercedes since 2017. He has a contract for 2021. Is the one sort of scrambling for positives from all this. So I think even if Bottas is in the car in 2021, he knows that because of what Russell did at the weekend, starting from Abu Dhabi, he's in a massive audition now to keep his seat. And all of the good that he's done over the last year since he got his contract renewed for 2021 is out the window now, and he's in a massive fight for his long-term future at the team.
Time waits for nobody in Formula One, but let's briefly look at that contract again. You heard from Toto Wolff on Sunday night in Bahrain, and obviously lots of people were putting the questions to him about George's future, and 2021 came up specifically, didn't it? So reading between the lines of what you heard from Toto, do you think there's any chance we'll see Russell in that car instead of Bottas next year?
I'd say possibly, but not likely. That would be my interpretation of what I heard, because Toto said that it's just not realistic at the moment. It's not realistic for 2021, rather. Not realistic doesn't mean not going to happen. It just means it's highly unlikely to happen. Bottas does have a contract. Hamilton doesn't. So there's a couple of avenues in theory for George to get in the Mercedes next year. I would my assumption, my gut feeling is that it will be Hamilton Bottas again next year. Let's not forget, as well as Bottas having his Mercedes contract, Russell has a Williams contract, and Mercedes wanted to sort of explore the option of Russell for 2021 earlier this year, but then Williams pounced and activated an option that it had to keep Russell for a third season. Letting him go for one weekend, maybe two, is a bit of a long-term Mercedes audition. That's one thing, but Williams has grand ambitions of its own. So, yeah, I think Russell couldn't have done anything more to sort of put himself in the frame for a shock, immediate call-up to Mercedes. But in all likelihood, this is about 2022 and getting that chance in the long term.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult potentially for Russell's development. What does he get really out of a third year in the Williams? Now we've seen what he can do at the front. But that's the situation as it is now. Scott and all of our guys at therace.com will keep you up to date with anything else that goes on. You'll, of course, hear from us here on YouTube as well if anything changes. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you are one of our subscribers, thanks very much for coming along for the ride. And we'll see you very soon with our next video about Formula One.